Hi, my name is Bethany Backnell, and I am here to walk you through a tutorial on how to navigate the databases on the Metro Library, which is a free resource for anybody who has a library card. And so here I am at metrolibrary.org, and if you have not gotten a library card, this is a great way to do it. It's nice and easy. You just register for a new account by clicking on the register a new account, fill it out, and then submit it. But we are here to talk about databases. So once you have your database, your e-card or your library card, you should be able to click on that Research and Learn button, and then there are all these options. And so here's your databases. And notice it says databases A to Z. And there are hundreds of databases that the Metro Library subscribes to. I've used a few of them pretty substantially, and so I would recommend one called E for Explora, Explora for Secondary, and another one is, especially if you're writing a persuasive essay, I would recommend Opposing Viewpoints, and I'm going to show you both of those and how to navigate to them. Okay, so I'm going to show you the Explora. Here's the E. I'm going to click on the E there and scroll down to Explora for Secondary. So that's this last one, and it's this Visit Resource website. Okay, and then notice it's going to ask you for your library card. I'm going to give you a recommendation that as soon as you have your library card, you create a document called library card, save it to your Google Drive or whatever so that you can easily access it. That's what I just did, and then save it so that you don't ever have to remember it. And so I've just gotten into my library card. I think my internet's running just a little bit slow. All right, so this is what's called a database. And if you don't know what a database is, that's okay. I didn't learn about it until I was an adult. And I've been an English teacher for years and years. So databases, it's kind of like a Google search, but it's already credible sites. So it kind of takes the guesswork out. So for example, if I typed in, I'll just type in a pretty general search. So emotional intelligence is something I'm kind of obsessed with. And so I'm going to type in emotional intelligence, but did you notice all the topics that were listed down underneath it? Whenever I hit the space bar, you have this all these possibilities. I love that because it helps narrow my search. Sometimes when I click those things, though, it gets super narrow, and I only have 5 or 6 articles. So I like to keep it pretty general in my topics, and then just hit enter, and then this is what comes up. You have this list. Notice I've got 4,500 articles. I can sort these. I'm going to make my screen just a little bigger so you can see it. I can sort these in a lot of different ways over here on the left side. So notice the first article about emotional intelligence was 1955. You want research that's fairly current, and so at least within the last 10 years. So I can slide this over to 2012, and then it's going to update my list for me. I can sort by the type. So notice that dropped it down to 2770. That's still a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, that's not that many articles. It's basically anytime emotional intelligence was mentioned in any way in any article that has that credibility piece. I could search by academic journal, which I'm going to tell you, those are pretty dense works. Those are research articles. And so if your professor doesn't require the academic journals, I would just keep searching and look for things that are not quite so dense. I used academic journals in my dissertation and some of my master's thesis work. So just so you know, if it's just you need some sources, magazines, news, those are good resources. All right, so that's how you can sort. And then I just go through and I kind of look at what all comes up. So enhancing self-esteem of children through emotional intelligence intervention approach. So if I wanted to use something that was related to children and teaching emotional emotional intelligence to children. That might be a good one. I'm just going to choose it. Notice it's an academic journal. I just said don't do those if you can avoid it. So let me get down to one that's not academic journal. Wow, those are all. Okay, here's one, emotional intelligence in nursing leadership. Ooh, this is going to be a good one. Okay, so I'm going to click on that one. And then I'm going to try to make my screen just a little bigger so you can see these sides. Okay, I think I made it too big. Oh well, you should be able to see it just fine. All right, so on this side, I've got this article. It's kind of hard to read because it's in PDF form. But okay, I'm going to look at this. This is a bit about self-awareness. I'm reading through it. I just kind of glance, get an idea of what it is. If it's something that I'm pretty sure I'm going to use, notice these little toolbars over here. I've got this Google Drive, this print. There's a citation button. And those of you, I mean, if you're doing a research paper, you have to do the citations. And so look at what happens when I click the cite button. You have all of these things come up. You're either going to use probably either APA. Some of you are using Chicago. There's the other Chicago if you're doing the one with notes and bibliography. And then there's MLA. So those are the top ones that you will probably be using. And you can just copy and paste that, which is so exciting. That's you don't even have to use EasyBib or Citation Machine. So also I always encourage students to click on the Google Drive button, because then what's going to happen is it's going to ask you to authenticate. You click on your Google account and it will say something like authentication successful, please wait, which is really nice. And when I go back, I always click on it one more time just to make sure that it saves. As soon as it says OK, then you have it saved to your Google Drive. And I'll just show you real quickly what that looks like, because it saves it to something called EBSCO. And so I have my EBSCO folder. Here it is. Okay, so it saves it in here, but I did want to point out it also shows up as the first thing in your Google Drive. So if you double click on it, it might come up in this. If it's a PDF, great. It's going to look really nice and you can save it that way. Some of the articles get a little weird. Let me see if I can show you one in my EBSCO folder. So that, well, these are all good. But sometimes there's some gobbledygook. When you try to open it, it just doesn't look good. And it looks like it's in a foreign language. But all you have to do is open with and Google Docs, and it will format it correctly. It also has the citation at the very top, which makes this just awesome. Okay, so that's how you find an article in using Explora, which is part of the EBSCO family. I wanted to show you the opposing viewpoints. So especially for those of you doing a research paper involving what's the word? Persuasion. Wow. You would want to maybe use this one. This one's called Opposing Viewpoints. Let's scroll down to that. It's one of my favorite ones because what's great about it is it shows you can choose by topic, and then you can choose to see both sides, which I really, really like. I'm trying to scoot this over. There it is. All right. So I'm going to choose something that's kind of controversial. Well, there's nothing more controversial than abortion. So I will click on that and notice how it's set up. You have all these different kinds of articles that you can choose from. So if I wanted to look at the magazine articles, that's great. There's audio if you want to listen to some podcasts about it. There's images, there's videos. So I like this. I like to see kind of the top few in each and see if something strikes me. I also like opposing viewpoints because it tells me how big it is. So if it's, 10,000 words, maybe I'm not going to choose that one. Likewise, if it's only 500 words, that's not very much. So it all automatically kind of helps you sort. 1,200 words is usually a pretty good article, somewhere around 1,200. Okay, so this one says, Republicans demand the right to bodily autonomy, but not for abortion. Okay, so that's interesting. But look at the next one. banning abortion hurts Black women's health. So you have two opposing viewpoints right there. You've got one that's more about, anti-abortion. This one's pro-abortion. Here's a third one. Even people who oppose abortion should fear Texas's new ban. There, you could click on the featured viewpoints to see all 10 articles. You could click on this one to just see a bunch of different articles in that way. This is more of a reference section where it's like an encyclopedia. You wouldn't want to use any of those in a research paper. Here are some biographies of important people related to this topic. Statistics are great to include in research. Infographics. Here's some primary sources, which would be great. So I think you can see why I like opposing viewpoints. Let me just click on one so you can see how to cite this one. All right, so here's the article. Notice we have some of the same icons. You can send this to Google Drive. I'm going to go ahead and click that one. Do the same process. You need to allow it. And then when I go back and click OK, when I go back to my Google Drive, it's going to show up again as the first article. And if I double click on this one, it's going to turn it into a Google Doc for me. Okay, so there's that one. It's very nice and it saves it for you. But if I want to cite this button, do you see it at the very top? There it is. It says Cite. Click on Cite, and you've got the same situation. You've got MLA, you've got APA, a little more limited because you only have the one Chicago instead of both. But, these are the ones I use the most anyway. So you can copy and paste that right into your references, or if it's called, for MLA, it's called Works Cited. So whatever your professor prefers, that's what you use. And that, my friends, is how you use the databases for Metro Library. All right, good luck.